Time for Naija. Every will enjoy television news for Ogbonge Pidgin English.
For more tori, make una kukuma follow us at Plus TV Africa on top Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Make una subscribe to our YouTube page and for Star Times on channel 308.
The Ramadan Kareem globally commenced on the 6th of May 2019 as Muslims around the world observed the customary 30 days fast. Plus TV Africa visited the Lekki Central Mosque in Lagos, Nigeria, to speak with the Imam of the mosque, Ridwan Jamiu, on the essence of this holy month of Ramadan.
Ramadan is a very fantastic event in the life of a Muslim. One, it brings about unity among the Muslims. It demonstrates universality of man and unity of mankind. God wants us to be one, as He Himself is one. We have only one Lord and one God. Allah has created us, and we have different tribes, colors, and languages. But these are not reasons for us to discriminate against one another. So fasting has been prescribed since Allah instituted Islam. This is what we have in the Quran, in Quran chapter 2, verse 183. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, believers, kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. Fasting has been prescribed for you, as it was prescribed for those who came before you. That is, those who came before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah says, la'allakum tattaqun. The purpose is God wants you to be pious. And when you are fasting, you abstain from certain things. That will lead you to piety. When you are fasting, you keep away from what to eat, your food, your drink, and sexual intercourse from dawn to dusk. So Ramadan is meant to discipline us, how to discipline ourselves to become decent people, to become morally upright, to be closer to Allah. The purpose is لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, for you to become pious. That is, the purpose of fasting is to build in you piety, God consciousness, sincerity, and faith. Early in the morning, before sun appears, and also when the sun sets. That is what is known as fasting. That's the time frame for fasting. After sunset, one is allowed to eat whatever you want to eat. You can drink, you can have sexual relations with your wife until the other day. Ramadan is now an opportunity God gave us to unite again as all Muslims. That's why all Muslims now are fasting all over the world, wherever they are found. And when you are so united, Ramadan is also to teach you that as humanity, you must be humane. As you are united in humanity, you are doing the same thing, you have to be humane. You have to love one another with true love. Love which brings about kindness, which brings about compassion, which brings about generosity to others. There is more to fasting than keeping away from eating and drinking. So what is expected of us is to conduct ourselves in a good way. Because our Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lam yada' qawla az-zur wal 'amala bih." Ramadan is a month that we should be closer to Allah than ever. This is an opportunity for us. So Allah wants us to make much supplications in this month of Ramadan because prayers are answered. This month is month of forgiveness. Allah forgives us our sins because of our faith in Him and because of our love for Him, keeping away from things we strongly desire for the sake of God. So for our colleagues, the Muslims, the non-Muslims generally, who may want to participate in this fasting, you are all welcome, but with a condition. You have to declare La ilaha illallah, that there is no God who deserves to be worshipped except one God, that is Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So once you declare this, and you join us also in prayers, the 5 compulsory prayers, fasting is okay, you can join us and be fasting. But without these 2, so fasting will not be valid for any non-Muslim.
For Plus TV Africa, Irene Ubani.
The Nigerian railway system, taking a look from how it all began to where we are now.
We're so much happy with President.
You can see the level of construction works ongoing. You can see the mammoth crowd behind who have come out to cheer the delegation from the Ministry of Transportation.
They are excited. It will cost them less to come to Lagos now.
We are saving costs for those who do business and encouraging people to do business and creating employment.
29 minutes
from Lagos to Abeokuta, amazing.
Quite impressive. It's a massive project.
So
Many thanks for joining us. You are watching Plus TV Africa, where big stories live right here. This is the news on the hour, and I am Mary Anna Cone. President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday presided over the valedictory session of the Federal Executive Council at the Presidential Council Chamber in Abuja. The council meeting, which began at 11 a.m., had Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Chief of Staff to the President, Malam Abba Kyari, Head of Service, Winifred Oyoita, and the National Security Advisor to the President, Retired Major General Babagana Mungono, all in attendance. Others at the meeting were all cabinet ministers, presidential aides, and secretariat staff of the council. The meeting went into a closed-door session as journalists and other non-members of the council were asked to vacate the venue. Over 1,000 Nigerians have indicated their readiness to join the Socio-Economic Right and Accountability Project, SERAP, in a suit against the planned move by the National Assembly to spend 4.68 billion naira welcome package on newly elected lawmakers. It was reported that the National Assembly planned to spend the money on 469 lawmakers who were elected on the platform of various political parties after their inauguration in June. In condemning the move, the SERAP said that it was illegal for lawmakers to receive 4.6 billion naira and vowed to sue the members of the National Assembly to stop the illicit enrichment. And joining me to shed more light in the studio, we have Mr. Adetokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director, SERAP, here in the studio. It's good to have you join us.
It's a pleasure being with you.
I've seen you on many other platforms talking about this issue. And so SERAP is trying to sue members of the National Assembly on this issue. Why do you think that they're not deserving? I mean, they obviously wouldn't be the first to get this welcome package, so why now?
You see, we have always maintained, whether now or in the immediate past, that public money must not be spent in a manner that is undeserving. Let me ask this question. Is it the normal thing when a private person engages somebody, and before the person starts work, he will start saying, I want to welcome with certain amount? It's not done. That's the point you are making. In public office, there must be service of the public with integrity, with humility. When you now say you want to give certain people welcome packages, even before rendering the service, to us that does not make
But the RMFAC has already come out with a statement saying these monies, because most of these people do not necessarily live in Abuja, they are using these monies to get furniture, to pay their rent, you know, to settle them in so they can actually do the job that you got them to get there to do in the first place.
Let me say straight away that this set of people that are to be paid this money were not forced to be members of the National Assembly. They elected public service. They solicited for people's votes. And they never had anything at the back of their mind as to this type of payment. So once you undertake an assignment, so you should live by what you get as the emolument of salaries for that assignment. So
the case that these men would make, and I'm playing the devil's advocate right now,
make economic sense to the average Nigerian. You see, we are talking about an economy where the ordinary worker receives 30,000 naira, and you are now saying because some people are elected to be legislators, they must now 469 of them should now be entitled to about 4.6 billion. It doesn't make sense to us. That's the point. I mean, you see, out of office for public officers, it says you will solidarize with people. According to the principle of solidarity, you carry out this assignment without affection or ill will. You won't allow your private matters to get into the ways of public office. So when oaths are like that, and again, the Constitution of Nigeria says the welfare and security of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. We now see the various security challenges we face. We now see armed banditry, we now see herders and farmers' clashes.
But what does that have to do with allocations going to members of the National Assembly? Because what does that have to do with these monies? Again, let's not forget that the Constitution has it that these amounts of monies be paid to them.
No, the Constitution does not have.
No, I'm saying there are some sets of rules that says this is how this person will be paid, this is how this will happen. They have a set of rules which has been running from time. Even though the Constitution doesn't clearly spell it out, they would have something to fight with and say, look, yes, we're public officers, but we need to get paid. We're not Mr. President who had decided to slash his salary by half. No. We have a right to get our money. I remember what happened when they were trying to get those Peugeot vehicles. They all demanded for their 17 million naira worth of vehicles.
Let me remind you, the Revenue Physical Allocation Monetary Committee
RMFAC
is the body that is empowered to make these monies available. I wonder whether that power can be exercised in vacuum. I wonder whether that power should not be exercised based on the economic realities of the Nigerian life presently. Because to me, apart from the contradiction with the specific provision of the Constitution, whether direct contradiction or indirect contradiction with the provision of the Constitution, to me, again, it sounds so bogus, so anomalous, that to allow that amount to be paid and to allow it to stay, it will no longer be sustainable. It will do violence to the life of Nigerians, that these people are elected to come and make law.
In one sentence, governors also have the same bogus amounts, some of them called security votes, and some other monies for miscellaneous. How come the governors are not under fire? And I'm not making a case for the National Assembly. Will SERAP also go a bit further to talk about the issue of the governors also and this issue of security votes?
Remember that SERAP is not in this matter because legislators are involved. We have challenged governors. We have challenged the various legislations made by certain state government, more or less paying hefty amount to governors. Okay. We are in court in respect of it. So we are not, our business is not with the legislator. Our business is any money that is public money cannot be spent in a manner that is not public-wise.
All right. Detokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director, SERAP, thank you very much for speaking with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Moving on, the Presidency has issued directive for the immediate clearance of Apapa port congestion and emergency cleanup of gridlocks on Apapa Road. This was disclosed in a statement signed on Tuesday by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, the Office of the Vice President, Laolu Akonde. In a statement, he ordered trucks and tankers to vacate the port access roads within 72 hours. The directive is said to have followed an emergency meeting convened by President Muhammadu Buhari. A presidential task force chaired by Vice President Osibajo was set up to restore law and order in the area within 2 weeks. The terms of reference of the task force include the development of an efficient, effective management plan for the entire port area, traffic including the cargo, fuel distribution and business district traffic, enforcing the permanent removal of stationary trucks from the highway. Members of the task force include Mr. Kayode Okpeifa, former Commissioner of Transport in Lagos, as the Executive Vice Chairman, and a representative of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, the Nigerian Ports Authority and the Nigerian Shippers Council. The Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, LASMA, has also been authorized to move into Apapa as the lead traffic management agency. Aviation unions today shut down the offices of Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority at the Lagos airport in protest against the new organogram approved for the agency by the federal government. The union comprises Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria and the National Union of Air Transport Employees. Others are the Association of Nigerian Aviation Professionals and the National Association of Aircraft Pilots and Engineers. The unions blocked the entrances of the NCAA headquarters and its annex office, chanting solidarity songs. They also carried placards with inscriptions such as "Collapse Organogram Structure, Our Mumu Don't Do," Organogram. Speaking on behalf of the aggrieved members of the union, the Deputy General Secretary of ATSAN, Francis Akinjole, said the indefinite industrial action followed the expiration of 7 days ultimatum given to management to resolve the issue. NFCT High Court in Apo on Wednesday fixed October 3 for the arraignment of Diziani Alison Madueke, former Minister of Petroleum, on 5 counts bordering on conspiracy and illegal act of accepting and giving gratification. The court granted the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission's leave to arraign Alison Madueke, former chairman of Atlantic Energy Drilling Company, Olajide Omokore, on 5 counts on February 25. The date was fixed following the absence of Justice Valentine Ashi, trial judge, who was on another engagement. Mr. Farouk Abdullahi, counsel to the EFCC, had told the court on February 25 that the arraignment could not hold as Alison Madueke and her co-accused were not in court. He explained that the EFCC had forwarded a request to the Attorney General of the Federation for onward commencement of Alison Madueke's repatriation process from the United Kingdom. And still with me in the studio, I have Adetokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director, SERAP. Now, I'm sure every Nigerian now is aware or is somewhat privy to the Alison Madueke case. Now, at some point she was sick and she was taken out of the country, but she's yet to return to the country. I'd like for you to explain the procedure of the court and why this case has been, the EFCC has been given leave to go get her and her co-accused.
Let me say straight away that it's a criminal matter, and time does not run against the state. A question of whether once somebody commits an offense and is not prosecuted within a particular number of years, it doesn't apply to the state. The expression we normally use is that time does not run against the state.
So no matter how long, it will still...
It will still. So it is the business of the EFCC to make any application before the court. It is now the business of the court to consider the merit or demerit of the application to decide whether to grant it or not. So it is evident that all this while Madueke had been arraigned. At first she was in Nigeria, later she went out. And she knew that she has to have her day in court. And when she's not forthcoming, the state has the right to make the necessary application before the court.
And what are these necessary applications?
No, somebody can be prosecuted in absentia.
So, but in her case, can she be prosecuted in absentia? Because there's statements saying that, you know, the co-counsel and Alison Madueke did not show up in court, hence the next move. So, if you're saying that they can be prosecuted in absentia, why wait for her to be brought back to the country?
No, you see, what has to be clear to the court is that you are not delaying this matter. Again, something must come from your hand to show that you indeed intend to prosecute the person that is prosecuted. And that is the essence of the EFCC saying we have given the Attorney General the information that she has to be brought here. Pending when she will be brought here, dates of arraignment has to be fixed. And because the court that is handling the matter is on another assignment, that was why the registrar gave a date for arraignment. Let's see what happens between now and then. That is allowed.
And if she does not come back to Nigeria, as at the time that the date has been fixed for the next arraignment, what will the court do next?
The court is, you see, I think I am aware of a case decided by Supreme Court that a court must not have a fixation as to, for example, a case came up today in court, and the court now, because somebody was not in court, the court now ruled that on the next adjourned date, trial must take place. No. A court will always react to what it faces on the next day. So if there is no justifiable reason why Alice Madueke will not appear the next day, that is the decision the court will now pronounce on.
So I might sound really, sarcastic, but if Alison has an excuse every other time, which is justifiable before the courts, we will keep extending.
No. You see,
will the courts continue extending it?
No. It is never done that way judicially.
Okay.
When you have a situation, there are records of courts. On a particular date, the reason why she was not in court will be explained. On this side, once the court now sees that it is getting too consistent and they are offering the same reason, the court will bound to make the necessary pronouncement and move on.
And the case will be...
Yes, the court is not bound to wait for anybody forever. So what is important, according to the court, is that you have been given the opportunity to present your own case and to defend yourself.
And if in absentia, she is... The court, I mean, we cannot decide what the court would say, but whatever it is, she's legally bound to abide by it.
Yes, now.
Whether she's within or without the country.
Because that becomes a pronouncement of the court of competent jurisdiction.
Okay, interesting. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope to find out what happens next on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Adetokunbo Mumuni, Executive Director, SERAP, for speaking with us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's time to take a quick break now. Stay with us for more news when we return.
You got goals, you fancy footwork, you mad dribbling skills, you boots.
Most of you guys should know this drill.
You leg over, you raise, you run them, you tip, you tear shot and boom. You football.
While South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa was among the first members of parliament to be sworn in on Wednesday, he issued a statement saying his deputy David Mabuza will not be sworn in as a lawmaker, having requested a postponement to address allegations he brought the ruling African National Congress into disrepute. President Ramaphosa, who is also leader of the ANC, is due to be elected on Wednesday by the 400 lawmakers in Parliament's National Assembly in the lower house, where his party holds the majority. He will be inaugurated on Saturday. The ANC which easily won South Africa's May 8th general election, but its share of the vote fell, reflecting anger at corruption scandals and racial inequalities that remain entrenched a generation after the party took power. Algeria's Army Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Ahmed Gaid Salah said on state TV that he had no political ambitions in response to democracy activists who say that he intends to copy the authoritarian model of Egypt. The armed forces have been on a pivotal power center in Algeria for decades and have been managing a transition after mass protests forced President Abdelaziz Bouteflika to resign last month after 20 years in office. Street demonstrations have continued to press demands for a dismantling of the elite independence veteran security commanders and business tycoons that have run the major oil and natural gas producer since independence from France in 1962. The Algerian election has been scheduled for July 4th, and the Algerian activists say they are concerned that the army-steered transition towards democracy will prove illusionary as in Egypt. Now the news continues after this short break. Stay with us. British Environmental Secretary Michael Gove said on Wednesday that people should reflect on what is the best way forward with Brexit, a day after Theresa May unveiled a new deal for Britain's departure from the European Union. May's new deal offers sweetness to Parliament, including the chance to vote on whether to hold a second referendum to try to break the impasse over Brexit.
I think everyone should take the opportunity to read the bill when it's published later today and to listen to the Prime Minister in the House of Commons. There are fundamentally three choices for the country. We can either leave the European Union without a deal, or we can stay in the European Union and have no Brexit, or we can leave with a deal. I think the best thing to do is to leave with a deal, and I hope people will give consideration to the Prime Minister's path out later today. In this withdrawal agreement, and within this withdrawal agreement bill, there are provisions to make sure that we can reduce the need to go into the backstop. There are specific plans for what are being called alternative arrangements, which can help address some of the issues that we all know exist on the Northern Irish border. So I think it's important that people take an opportunity to reflect on what the best way forward might be. I recognise that the whole issue of Europe excites understandably strong passions, but one of my concerns is that if people look at all of the options in front of us, and we look at the two sort of poles of this argument, those who say let's stay in the European Union and those who say let's leave without a deal, actually neither of them, I think, captures exactly where the British people want to be, which is out of the European Union, but with a good deal.
Up next is our business news. Stay with us. The penetration and usage of LPG across the country, the policy would also address issues of safety. Now, with the looming trade war between the United States and China, alongside industry data showing an increase in U.S. crude inventories, oil prices dropped on Wednesday. However, analysts have said oil markets remain tight, with supply cuts by OPEC and allies such as Russia. Brent crude futures were down 17 cents and $72.01 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude futures for July delivery were down 46 cents at $62.67. In a trade war between China and the United States, no further talks between top officials have been scheduled since the last meeting ended in a stalemate on May 10. And still ahead on Plus TV Africa News is our roundup on entertainment and sports news. Back in a moment. The management of dancehall artist Shatta Wale has officially apologized for the fight that took place at the 20th edition of Ghana Music Awards event, which held last Saturday. The statement reads, "We wish to render a sincere apology to all patrons of the 20th edition of the Vodafone Ghana Music Awards, viewers, organizers, sponsors, and Shatta fans worldwide for the unfortunate incident that took place during the VGMA. Shatta Wale's management also made it known that the artist meant no harm to Stonebwoy. The dancehall artist won 2 awards in 2 categories, which include Reggae Dancehall Singer of the Year and High Life Song of the Year." Late rapper Nipsey Hussle's alleged killer Eric Holder has been charged by a grand jury. According to reports, Eric Holder has been indicted with new charges added to the existing ones. The new charges added to the lawsuits are 2 counts of assault with a firearm. According to the LA County District Attorney, he was charged previously with 4 crimes, including intended murder. Eric Holder was arrested a few days after he was alleged to have murdered Nipsey Hussle. And that's it on entertainment. The very best in sports is coming up right after this.
Getting relaxed at a great hotel and spa, shopping in the best malls of this world, and touring the City of Gold. There is just one destination that can make you have all experiences in one. Discover Dubai with WakaNow.com. Book your travel with WakaNow and get free airport pickups in Dubai. WakaNow can book your flights, hotel, tours, and much more. We have an international travel sim for use anywhere in the world with non-roaming rates. Contact WakaNow.com for the cheapest prices to Dubai. WakaNow.com.
Ghanaian footballer Asamoah Gyan has reversed his decision to retire from international football after receiving a call from the Ghanaian president, Nana Akufo-Addo. Gyan, Ghana's record goal scorer with 51 goals in 106 appearances, had announced his shock retirement just weeks before the 2019 African Cup of Nations after he was replaced as Ghana's captain by coach Kwasi Appiah. The 33-year-old has not featured for the Black Stars since September 2017 due to persistent injury woes and has struggled for playing time at club level too. In the coming days, coach Kwasi Appiah is expected to name striker Andre Ayew as the new captain, as well as release his provisional squad for the African Cup of Nations in Egypt. And still talking sports, highly rated Nigerian midfielder Frank Onyeka has signed a 5-year contract extension with Danish club Midtjylland. The announcement was made on the club's official website. The 21-year-old has impressed with his strong work ethic as well as tremendous physical strength and is humble off the pitch. Speaking on the new multi-year deal, Onyeka said he will continue to work hard and is a regular goal scorer as he attempts to be part of the starting lineup in the club. Onyeka joined FC Midtjylland in 2015 and is credited with 47 appearances in all competitions, scoring 9 goals. And that's it on Sports Updates. I'm Samson Oleide.
Thank you, Samson. And that's our roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making headlines. Do join us then, and do have a great day.
The Nigerian railway system, taking a look from how it all began to where we are now.
We're so much happy with President. You can see the level of construction works ongoing. You can see the mammoth crowd behind who have come out to cheer the delegation from the Ministry of Transportation.
They are excited. It will cost them less to come to Lagos now.
We are saving costs for those who do business and encouraging people to do business and creating employment.
29 minutes from Lagos to Abeokuta. Amazing.
Quite impressive. It's a massive project.
So far, so content.
I feel great. I'm excited.
Premiering this Friday at 6:30 p.m. with a repeat broadcast at 9:30 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
But of course, when we get confirmation, we will let you know. And there's a whole lot of things happening. There's also talks about the FIFA Under-20 World Cup set to kick off, and our own darling Flying Eagles are representing Nigeria. And I'm hoping that we can do well on that on the continent. We know that we've not done so well at the Under-20 World Cup, but we're just believing that something positive will happen this time around. There's also talks about basketball, and for football, Petr Cech is in the news. Is he leaving Arsenal? Is he going back to Chelsea? We'll get to talk about that when we get to that segment. I've got Samson right here on the show. I mean, have you ever heard about a country that have made it a law for men to marry 2 wives? You must marry 2 wives. If not, you go to jail. Would you want to be in that kind of country?
I've not, but some communities do.
Would you find yourself in that community? Would you allow it? Would you want to marry?
mean, there's the place of you behaving like a Roman when you're in Rome, you know, but there's also the place of you upholding whatever moral stance you've got. So it depends on the situation. You know, I'm a gentle guy.
All right, let's talk about the AFN, Athletics Federation of Nigeria. We're hearing that there's panic in the association now because of misappropriated funds. And I'm wondering, I know that there are times we've made jokes about you wanting to buy 1,000 naira airtime from your bank and you mistakenly load 10,000 naira. Now we're hearing that they're supposed to get about $15,000 grant, but approximately they got about 150,000, as the IAAF mistakenly paid $150,000 to the AFN instead of the yearly $15,000 grant. And now they're asking for the money back. Pay us back this money. They're supposed to pay back $135,000. But since 2017 till date, they've not been able to pay back.
It's shameful. It's a controversy that shouldn't even have stemmed up from wherever it came from. Let's paint the picture clearly. May 14th, 2017, precisely, the Athletics Federation, of the world, transferred erroneously $150,000, as you said, instead of $15,000, which is what they remit to their member associations or federations, as it were. And a mistake has been made, an additional zero. It's not going to cost us anything to refund 135. They found out the mistake. They've sent letters, written, made formal request for the reversal of the funds that were mistakenly sent. And till date, nothing has happened. There was a letter from November last year. There was a letter March 14th this year, still reminding the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, AFN, to refund the money. And now we're now in a position whereby we're facing, a potential ban with so much at stake in the next 1 year. Let's paint the picture very clearly so that people understand what's happening. Results of the African Championship at Asaba last year have been delisted by the IAAF. It has been delisted. Most of those results have been delisted. Now you have the All-African Games taking place in Morocco coming up later this year. We're likely to be banned from that. You have the World Championships taking place in Doha. We're likely to be banned from that, and that's in September, the World Championships. Then you also have the Tokyo 2020 Games. That's at next year's summer. So from May this year till June next year, a whole lot of competitions, both on the continent and in the world. Are we going to miss out on all African Games, the World Championships, and the Olympic Games just because $135,000 is nowhere to be found, or those at the helm of affairs are not willing to refund a money that was erroneously sent to them in the first place?
When this money comes into the account, certain people are supposed, notable individuals are supposed to sign this, and I'm sure they know exactly where this money is. But
so the money was even paid into the Ministry of Sports account, and it was the Ministry of Sports that would, have gone forward to, send or draft the send the money to the AFN's account of leadership for whatever they want to use it for. The question now is, the minister, as the head of that ministry, has to answer questions as regards why a money that was erroneously sent over 2 years ago has not been rectified till now. It raises questions. And 135,000 is meant to be sent back. You're saying you're sending 60. I don't get it.
Well,
are you really trying to pay? It's not a debt you're trying to pay in installments.
Installments, yeah.
It's not.
Very true. It's a sad one for the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, but we just hope that they get that sorted. And it's just normal. If you get an alert that is more than what you requested for, you immediately call the bank and say, okay, I got this amount of money. Where is it from? What is it for? And I think the AFN should have actually done that. When they saw about $150,000, they should have reached out to the IAAF and have said to them, look, we got $150,000 instead of $15,000. Is there any reason why you sent this? Was it an error? Okay, if it is an error, let's send back $135,000. But hey, we had to wait till now, and the case is still up, and the EFCC will hear that they're investigating this one. But let's see what they come up with in a couple of days' time. Let's talk about the Flying Eagles of Nigeria. The FIFA Under-20 World Cup is upon us, and the Flying Eagles of Nigeria went through a bit of schooling from FIFA to learn about the new laws of the game, trying to put them through on what to do and what not to do. But in actual fact, we've not really done so well at this kind of competition. I know in the Under-17 we've done well.
Done very well.
Super Eagles as well.
Yes.
We can say they've done fairly well, but the Under-20 they've not done pretty well.
Not so well. Ghana was the one who represented Africa very well by winning the World Cup, being the first African nation. We're yet to really get to the peak of under 20 football in the world. And there are lots of worries, for this particular team because the under 20 AFCON, we finished fourth.
Fourth, yeah.
So lots of worries for Paul Aigbogun, who is the head coach for the under 20, and the lads here. He had to even change his attacking lineup. The attackers he took to the African Cup of Nations are entirely different from what he took to Poland. And we'll see them in their first match. It's on Friday against Qatar. And I'm a bit worried because we've not fared so well, in the build-up to this tournament. And you look at Qatar over the last 4 years, the developmental stages they've gone through in terms of their football is astonishing. And it's no surprise that they won the Asian Cup in January.
True. And for Nigeria, the kind of friendly matches that they actually, they featured in a bit of friendly matches and they lost a couple of
under
them.
13, under 15.
Exactly, yeah, but I don't think the build up to this competition it's so good. But yeah, it's the World Cup. No matter how well you play in a friendly game, it's not the same thing that will happen when the tournament starts proper. We know what happened to, was it Spain? When they ran through their friendly matches, they got wins and all that. Then when they got to the World Cup, they fell apart woefully. You also saw the case of England. So let's hope that the Nigerian under-20 boys can do us proud right there, talking about the under-20 World Cup in Poland. It kicks off tomorrow, Thursday to be precise, and we're expecting the very best of football. Football never ceases. We know that the leagues have actually come to an end, except for Italy and Spain. I think Spain did not
rounded up
rounded up over the weekend. So Italy will have the final games this weekend. But even if the leagues have come to an end, we will still have the best of football. On the 20 World Cup, there's also the Women's Female World Cup. And after that, there's still the Champions League finals and the Europa League finals, where Arsenal and Chelsea will be slugging it out. And for Champions League, it is about Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur. Let's talk about a bit of transfers now. We hear that Henry Onyekuru has been called back by Everton, and Everton have placed the price tag on Henry Onyekuru. And I was shocked this morning when I heard that Bayern Munich are interested in signing the front man.
Well, good to be linked to Bayern. It shows that he's green. When you have top clubs in Europe call for your services. But the big question is, will the move make more impact on his career in terms of getting playing time, developing and all of that? I mean, look at the Bayern team. Where does he want to fit in, especially up front? It calls the question.
There's Lewandowski there who is never ready to leave that spot.
Lewandowski won't leave at this time. I understand quite well that there has to be replacements for Robben and Ribéry, who left, over this weekend. But Onyekuru doesn't look like the man. There's still Kingsley Coman in the mix as well. So a whole lot of top players, Gnabry, a whole lot of top players in there, and we'll find it very difficult to get game time. If you can't get into the Everton squad, then Bayern is a top hill.
So the best advice is to probably stay back with Everton.
Probably stay back with Everton or continue with Galatasaray. I mean, sometimes you probably want to force a move to where you're assured of playing time and you feel comfortable, like you're loved. He did so well in the Turkish league, so why not stay there? And if he wants to get back to England, force your way through Marco Silva's plans, at Everton.
Very well. And for Everton, we know that there's a Nigerian playing currently with the Everton squad, but he doesn't get the first team start. But yes, he still features in some of the games for Everton. Well, let's go on a break and go straight to boxing. Let's experience what we call the great boxing knockouts.
Good right. Oh, there he is. Out of there. It's over with. It's over with. That is done. That is done.
7. Counter rotate. Finishes it here in round 2.
Alan Sweetness green, black and gold, and in the blue, Jadon Codrington hasn't hit double digits as a pro, but 9 out of 9 all KO. And here's Green. He promised to go inside, and he's stung, and he has rocked Codrington's world and left. And it's over. Over in 18 seconds. Chaos, they need the doctors there, and they're getting them and attending them to Jadon Codrington, who looks seriously hurt here.
It's not just nerves, but it's also
the caliber of fighter that Dawson is. Dawson has better legs than anybody that Adonis Stevenson has ever fought, so he's not going to be able to land that body shot at will. It's going to take some more work.
Down goes Dawson on a spectacular left cross, and Chad Dawson is very badly.
Miranda against David Banks. Edison Miranda, potentially Pascal's next opponent. There's a big right hand. Holy cow! David Banks is halfway out of the ring. What a knockout!
8, 9, 10. It's over. Hey, go back to the corner.
Coming up at the midway point of round 5.
There's the jab by Nonito Donaire working well.
Oh my! Look out! Darchinian down for the first time. 5. Struggling to get to his feet. In terrible shape. It's all over. It's all over. Nonito Donaire has pulled out the monstrous upset in emphatic fashion.
Rocking his own corner.
Turns Chelo Diaz around. And Chelo is caught with a big left from Rocky. And Chelo is
A monumentally impressive performance, this by Lennox Lewis, who, let's remember, is 37 in September. Is past his best probably himself, but you never get it. That's a crunching right hand, and that must finish it. It must finish it. Tyson cannot get up.
Keep the fight at long range, get the shots off quickly, and then move his legs and be ready to move his upper body too.
Nice.
Oh, beautiful right hook. Out.
Carl Daniels hits the canvas, and Benji Estevez says it is all over.
Ceinture mondiale des poids moyens en jeu.
I'm really wondering if my children would get to feature in this kind of sport. I mean, it's a deadly one, and I don't even want to partake in this. In as much as they make so much money from it, but it's a no-no for me. We've seen mad boxing knockouts, and this is just, we've seen the likes of Tyson Fury, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, and the likes. And boxing is not it for me, honestly. It's not.
Oh, UFC is?
No, none of them. Because I even get crazy when I see women fight boxing and the UFC. And I'm wondering, how do they get emotional? Because remember we had a guest one time who was a UFC fighter, and he said that the emotions that they actually portray in the ring is different from how they are outside the ring. So yeah, that's why they keep it professional.
It's the sweet science.
But what if you meet the unprofessional ones who don't care how they feel? They just go all out on you.
Most times, that's when you have issues of domestic violence. You know, we've had boxers plagued with such controversies over the years. You know, even Mayweather. You know, let's not forget that. But overall, most boxers outside the rings, they seem to be cool guys who try to keep their head, above the water and just get things done. I do think that boxing is a very exciting sport. It's intriguing, adrenaline pumping and all of that. But more importantly is the rule of the game is protect yourself at all times.
Protect yourself, but when you get knocked out, sometimes the way you fall when you get knocked out, I wonder what goes through the minds of their wives, their girlfriends, their children. Is that my dad? Come on, you're not even, you're not man enough.
The money is much.
Yeah, the money is much. Well, let's talk about Tyson Fury. There's a possible rematch between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. I remember Deontay Wilder just recently defeated Brazil in that fight. Just in the first round, he knocked him out, and he's looking forward to fighting Anthony Joshua. But Tyson Fury has said there's a possible rematch, which is set for March, April 2020. Nothing is being confirmed yet, but it's looking likely that he just might get into the ring again against Deontay Wilder. And looking at the money gotten, because there's been talks about Deontay, is it that Deontay Wilder is avoiding a fight with Anthony Joshua? Because the money that was put on paper, on ground, was about $100 million. And we heard that he got about $10 million after defeating Brazil. So is it a case of him avoiding Anthony Joshua? Because the money is actually good. Why is he running away from that fight?
The money is good, but it's difficult to say which party is avoiding who, because I can remember vividly that, you know, Wilder offered Joshua $50 million. A scam did, and they reached out, but nothing came forth from that. So it's difficult to say who is avoiding who at this point in time. You look at Joshua's choice as well. I mean, there was the opportunity to fight Wilder, make that the biggest, you know, boxing, about 5 years for HBO and Showtime to come together to make it happen. Even Lennox Lewis, which we saw one of,
against Mike Tyson.
Against Mike Tyson, it took a while as well. So it's going to take a while for both networks to agree, and then definitely both camps, you know, post money, post price and all of that. Once they can agree, sort out all of that, I think we'll have the fight. It may not happen 2020, but I think by 2021 we should have it.
But Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder, again, we've seen it happen from the highlights. It ended in a draw.
Draw, yes.
But do you really think Tyson Fury can take out Deontay Wilder?
He can. He was on the verge of victory. I think the second knockdown was decisive, because when you get knocked down in a round, you know, it's automatically 10-8 to your opponent, and that's like 2 rounds ahead already. So Tyson Fury suffered 2 knockdowns in the fight, so that probably, you know, ensured that the fight went into a draw. If he had avoided that 12th round knockout, knockdown rather, I think he would have won with ease. So overall, he has superior boxing powers. He seems better than Wilder. But the question is, can you go 12 rounds against Wilder and avoid his right hand?
Right hand, exactly. Well, talks are still going on. Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder. But we'll get, I'm sure we'll get to see these guys get into the boxing ring and give us a good fight. Let's go straight to the NBA, talking about basketball now. Toronto Raptors, if even the score, it is now 2-2 in this series, and it's becoming tougher. A Milwaukee Bucks side we thought would go all the way, probably a clean sheet in this one. It has gotten tougher for them. We have game 5 coming up next, and it will be a difficult matchup between these guys. But Toronto Raptors, they have the energy, they have the zeal, they have the motivation to go all the way. As they came back from 2-0, it looks like they can actually go all the way.
They can go all the way. It was even a shocking one for the Bucks, because they started so well. Giannis was on fire, and there was a 12-point advantage at some point, but how they lost
into overtime.
You know, it had to go into overtime. How they lost their way, I don't understand. But you have to give it up for Kyle Lowry. He came up with 25 points when Kawhi Leonard had some sort of quiet game in there. And I think the Raptors bench played a big role in this, because Marc Gasol also came up, contributed 7.
Him exiting Arsenal and going back to Chelsea. Not going back to Chelsea as a goalkeeper, but we're hearing that he's supposed to be the sporting director for Chelsea. But my concern is these shouldn't have leaked out now, because we're looking forward to the Europa League final between Arsenal and Chelsea, and it's going to demoralize the club. And that's a tweet that was put out by Peter Cech. He saying that no decision has been made about his future, and his sole concentration is on the Europa League. Now, the way it is now, if you're Unai Emery, would you put Peter Cech as your #1 goalkeeper against Chelsea? No matter how professional it is.
No, I won't, for 2 reasons. I understand quite well that most times managers tend to retain faith in their #2 for cup games, but this Europa League final is as good as the Champions League final for Arsenal.
And it's an emotional one for both teams.
An emotional one for both teams. Chelsea are guaranteed of Champions League football. Arsenal are not. So they need their best legs to prosecute this, to win it, so that they qualify for Champions League football. And considering this, you feel that Czech will be a bit disorganized and destabilized, you know, from the whole transfer saga, so to speak. So if I was the one, I wouldn't play Czech in goal. I would just play Leno in goal. Overall, I do think that Czech will go back to Chelsea.
Sure.
He's a legend that is adored by the fans, and it's going to be a good one, because since 2017, Michael Emenalo left, Chelsea has not had a sporting director yet, and it has reflected in the signings they've made. Now, especially when you consider the fact that they're still facing a ban, you know, in terms of the transfer window, both for the summer and the coming winter, they would need a player who understands the club well and who can relate with players. And I think Czech is adored, not just in Chelsea, but even within English football and probably globally.
All right, for Peter Cech, let's see how that goes. For Peter Cech, going back to Chelsea, and if he gets to feature as the #1 man for Unai Emery's side, talking about the Europa League final. When Samson talked about
who gets to win?
The summer, who gets to win? It's too tough to call. When he talked about summer and winter, my mind just went straight to, you know, the movie. And I'm wondering, has winter come or is summer around the corner? It's all good. I'll head back to the series and see what's happening in that one. Well, we're wrapping up the show this morning on Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa. Hope you enjoyed the package. Do join us again tomorrow for another exciting episode. And of course, tomorrow we'll be looking at interesting things happening around the world of sports, especially grassroots sports. Thank you, Samson.
A pleasure, bro.
Do enjoy the rest of your day and keep it locked down to Plus TV Africa because we give you the best when it comes to TV programming.
It's okay, it's okay.